Thank you, JR and Lauren and Marty, Victor, Frank, and all my friends in the audience. You know, as a physician who can basically deal with one patient at a time, I have an opportunity to really share some of my own experiences and hopefully make a change in some of your lives. I wish that health was as easy as just having one of these every day. Unfortunately, although this is a good idea and a good start, it's not enough. And I think that, I've really spent 40 years thinking about health. Unfortunately, I spent too much of those years thinking about illness. But what really is health? What is salute for my Italian friends? How do we avoid the malocchio, the evil decree? And I think it's something that requires effort, but it's an effort that is really worth it. And there's one thing I could wish to all of you is that all of you have great health. I think that the problem is that we have been focusing much too much on illness. And we know how to define illness. We know when your blood pressure is too high, or your coronary arteries are filled with plaque. But we really don't understand and have not defined an even more important concept, which is wellness. And I think I don't want you to be confused that just because you're feeling well, that somehow that means you are well. A week before your heart attack, you were not well. A week before someone tells you have diabetes, doesn't mean you're well. It's also important for you to appreciate that when you are well, and I hope this is not confusing, you can handle illness more effectively. If you're basically well, and we'll define that, when unfortunately in life you transition to an illness state, you will recover much more effectively and fully than if you did not start out well. Is that clear? Okay. So what really is wellness? As I said, I know what illness is, and most of the physicians know what illness is, but unfortunately, they have not been taught what is wellness and how do we define wellness. See, illness is about your heart and your lungs and your kidneys, right? But wellness is actually much more complicated and requires a different way of thinking. And it's a thinking that we're not taught in medical school, but we're taught in life, especially if you're an observant physician. So when you look at people who are well, what do you see? You see that they are socially connected to each other. Look at this audience. All of you are friends. That is critical. Social health requires you not to feel alone, even if you are alone. It's very, very important. We'll skip over the physical stuff because everybody knows what that means. But what about emotional health? Emotional health is confidence, it's attitude, it's ability to appreciate your friends, to root for your friends. It's not just about yourself. It's about joy. It's about your ability to realize your potential as an individual. That's what emotional health is. Environmental health, well, if you're lucky enough to live in an environment where there's less pollution, less disease, more vaccinations for those of you who unfortunately require certain vaccinations as you get older. Mental health. Mental health is a self-awareness. It's an understanding of who you are relative to the rest of the world and realizing that it's just not about yourself. It's about your family and your friends, and for you to succeed, they need to succeed. It's for you to be able to wake up every morning and have the energy to realize what you need to do as an individual. What about spiritual health? Something that certainly we don't study this in medical school. It's about compassion and goodness and sharing and a belief in a greater being. So this is what really is part of the wellness concept that goes way beyond the concept of illness. And guess what? They're not separate entities. They are all intersecting. You can't be ultimately well if you don't have spiritual wellness, if you don't have emotional health, if you don't have social health. You cannot achieve this on your own. It's not about going to the gym every day. It's not about eating an apple every day. It's not about even my favorite supplement, Pycnogenol, every day. It's all of these balls that you have to intersect. And you have to be aware of it, and you have to think about it every single day. Thank you. When I see patients, and I see them every day because that's what I do, I'm not an administrator. I teach medical students and residents, and I share my thoughts with other doctors. Sometimes I teach them something. Most of the time they teach me something. But what I explain to patients when they sit in front of me, they're young individuals in their 20s, 30s, and 40s, and I say to them, you know, there's a continuum. At one end of the continuum is wellness, and at the other end of the continuum is illness. And believe it or not, there's a train that's going from wellness to illness. How quickly that train goes is up to you and what you do, all right? And I ask patients, where are they in this continuum? Oftentimes they're correct. Sometimes they exaggerate their own sense of wellness. But at least it's pointing out to them that they need to make an effort, a very determined effort, to slow that train down. And all of you have the capacity to do it if you're willing to invest some time and effort. As I said, it's not about just having that apple every day. It's about emotional health, social health, spiritual health. All right? If you're lucky enough to live in this country with all of the freedoms that are available to us, all the opportunities, it's really a pity for you not to take advantage of that. Well, how do we achieve optimum health? Well, these are all the balls that you've got to somehow juggle. You've got to juggle all of these balls. And only some of you have the capacity and the will to really do this. But it will take a major effort in order to do this. Because otherwise, that train is going to race towards illness, which, believe me, I'm tired of treating illness. It's no fun. So when I look at the physical part of an individual, you notice there are all these systems that I have to learn, and maybe that's why we haven't had so much time talking about wellness, because there's so much to learn about illness. So I have to learn about the respiratory system. I have to learn about the cardiovascular system. I have to learn about the kidneys. You notice there are no walls in the body? They're all connected, all right? All of these organs, the separate organs that make up these systems, they're all interconnected. The first time I looked at this, I thought that this was, a male, but then I realized that there was actually a brain over there, and that ruled that out. In any case, there are a lot of organs you got to study in medical school, and each of them are important, each of them are critical, each of them are critical for your physical wellness, not for your emotional wellness, not for your spiritual wellness. So your doctor can't help you with those other balls that you have to juggle. That you have to find in your colleagues, in your spiritual leaders, in your friends, in your family, in your own reading, in getting insight. It's becoming a Renaissance individual. It's extremely important not to limit your thinking and your opportunities. Well, from a really simple health point of view, we know what we have to do. We have to reduce inflammation. We have to contain the immune system, that it's not overactive, so you don't get multiple sclerosis, and you don't get lupus, and you don't get rheumatoid arthritis, and you don't get heart disease. You want to limit infections, because we know infections cause a cascading effect. You know that when people get influenza 6 months later, they have a higher incidence of having a heart attack? This is really very amazing, interesting stuff that we're developing. So you want to really do everything you can to deal with the illnesses and the environment that you're exposed to, and limit the damage. It's what I said, if you're well, you can handle illness much more effectively, all right? So you now have to become educated, and knowledge is power when it comes to wellness. You have to believe in the science and in the evidence that accumulates with reference to how to eat this Mediterranean-type diet, more fruits, more vegetables, more fiber, how important sleep is. Sleep is critical. If you don't sleep, you're not going to achieve wellness. Sleep is as important as food and water. So don't wake up at 3 in the morning on the internet and texting people. That's not a way to get healthy. You're going to break down. How about stress management? You have to realize and understand biofeedback, meditation, yoga, prayer, whatever it takes. Stress is a major cause for illness. And the individuals who are stressed out do not recover and have a much higher risk for all of the diseases that we talked about. You have to learn how to manage your stress. You have to understand when you are stressful. When I took on this new position at NYU, which is a great privilege to be the director of the Men's Health Center, I said to myself, how am I going to determine if I'm functioning in a healthy way? And I said to myself, in 6 to 8 months, I'm going to determine whether I'm still sleeping normally, whether my libido is still healthy, and whether my weight was healthy. And I'm happy to report, I think my wife will attest, all three are fine. So how do you know what to really do? Well, as I said, there's diet and exercise and sleep. But there are a lot of supplements that are actually rather important because unfortunately the diets we're not as full and as rich as we would like it to be. And here's where the Pycnogenol and isotonics comes in. I mean, pick products that have science and evidence for it. I mean, Victor and his company invest millions of dollars on, 40 years of research, publications, clinical studies. You can feel confident that what they're saying is true. All right? And why is it true? Because they've done studies showing its effect on circulation and inflammation, in arthritis, on mental health, on fatigue. All these things that are an assistance in trying to improve your overall state of health. And what do you guys have? You have isotonics, a fantastic foundational supplement. It doesn't cure everything, but it's the foundation. So with that, I want to thank all of you. It's always a privilege for me and for my wife to attend, and I wish you all the best of health.